Hi everyone, welcome to this webinar. This webinar will be about import-export of data. So everything can be imported or exported in CSV or Excel spreadsheet within Geotic. So this can allow for compatibility with other software afterwards or beforehand. Um, so today we will be concentrating in this tab called import-export. I'm not going to be talking about certificates because I've done so in a different webinar called Assays Part 1, where I explain how to import certificate. So I will skip this part, but I will talk about all the other options in here. Importing and exporting is quite important, as you may know, because you may have historical data, you have external data that you need to import into your database. So for example, coordinates. I've told you how to manually input some coordinates in here, but a lot of time you receive a file from the surveyor, or you've planned all your drill holes in a different software, or you've done it in an Excel spreadsheet, so you can import all of those coordinates directly from here. Okay, so to do so, you just click on coordinates. You just go and pick up your file that you want to import. Okay, so I have prepared some examples in here. So, for example, my coordinate file. Sorry. I can show you how this file looks like, just to give you an idea. Okay. So this is my Excel spreadsheet. Oops, I'm just going to put this in the corner, right in here. So I just have several drill holes that I just planned. So I just want to import those files into Geotic. So I select my file, press load. Okay, so if I had several spreadsheets, I would have to select the right sheet in my file. And then here in title line and first data line, this is where it starts. So my title line is the first line in this case, and my first data line is the second one. So that's why I put it 1 and 2. In this case, I don't want to have coordinates for drill coordinates. That would be the case if I had a file from a surveyor that I want to update my data. In this case, these are planned drill holes. I can go in here and change which kind of coordinate I'm trying to import. It would be the exact same thing if you had outdrops or drop points, you would import them from here. However, we'll talk about segments. Segments are used for channeling. Okay, so the channels are going to be imported differently, but all the other ones can be imported from here. Okay, so in this case, this is planned. So I'm just going to put planned. Here, and you'll see this again and again. Okay, so it's always the same idea. So you have the source. So these are the different columns from your Excel spreadsheet. And the destination is where you want to import these data into Geotic. So for example, if I have azimuth in my file here, I'm going to go in here and put azimuth. My dip corresponds to dip in Geotic. My length in this case will be the same thing as the as length here. Sorry. The x in here will be this is in UTM, so east, north, elevation. All right, so this is how I'm going to be doing the correspondence between the different columns and what goes in Geotic. The other tab here, visualization, is exactly what you will find in your Excel spreadsheet or your CSV file. Okay, so this is exactly what it is. Okay, so the errors are the errors that will appear if I'm trying to import data and I have some problems with importing the data. They will just record all the lines that were not imported, and they would explain a little bit why. Okay, so it's not more difficult than this. You just click the title coordinate and then you press import, and then that's pretty much it. Okay. So in this case, I'm trying to import coordinates from drill holes that do not exist. So they ask me if I want to create a new new survey. Okay, so new DDH basically. If I say yes, it will create a bunch of new surveys. Okay. All right, so you always have a little report like this saying, okay, everything has been imported, or some of them had errors. In this case, there's no error. So if I was going to go into, oops, I'm going to close this. If I'm going here, I can, and I need to, oh, I think it was in virtual other. No. Oh, all right, here we go. So it just updated. So these are the new drill holes I just imported. So if I go in here, you can see that there's coordinates. Obviously, the conversion between the coordinate systems has been done automatically also, so that's not a problem. Okay, so you can watch another video about coordinate systems that I've explained before. But basically, if it's all set up in Geotic, the conversion will be done automatically. So this is how you import coordinate. It's not more difficult than this. So that's all you need to do. Downhole survey are very similar. So in this case, you would also find your file. So test deviation, for example. My file looks exactly the same. So it's the first and second line. I do a load. Okay, and then here you have depth, type, estimate, depth. Again, I can just go in here. Depth goes with depth, type. Nope, it goes in type. Azimuth goes in azimuth. Depth goes in depth, right? So if I don't want to do this correspondence every single time, I can create an importation profile. Okay, so I can save these settings so that I don't have to import, like, to redo the associations every time. So I can just call this deviation or something. Okay, and so I can save this profile, and next time, instead of doing all of these one by one, it will just do it automatically. It will record this. Okay, so this is the importation profile. You'll see in this case there's only 4 fields, but sometimes, like in the case of certificates, for example, or other thing, it can take a while to just do those associations. So the importation profile can be very useful. Okay. In the case of the downhole survey, when you import those tests, these are associated with one single DDH. Okay, so that's why in here I have to specify in which project this is going to go and in which survey or DDH this is going to go. So it's important to do this. Okay, so if you, for example, if you receive a multi-shot or something, well, you have to put that file in the right thing. However, if you receive a file with several drill holes and projects into the same file, this is probably another way you want to import your data. It's going to take you too long to just split it into different files and import it one by one. We'll see that a little bit later by importing directly using a template instead. Okay. So this is to import that whole survey. Not much more difficult than this. So I can press again load, and then I can import my file. Okay, so in this case, I do have problems because this is just a fake database, and I already have data in here. So what do I want to do with this? Do I want to put this line invalid instead, and so on? Okay, so there's some validations going on when you import these data. So I'm just going to say no in this case because I don't want to really import this. Okay, so there were 4 lines imported, 1 ignored, and 4 errors. So if I just show you the errors in here, just to show you how it looks like. So you have depth, type, azimuth, depth, and then at the last bit you have the error. Okay, so for example here, there was an existing data already at that depth, so that's the error. And the 3 other ones are just because I'm trying to put tests in a drill hole that stops before 275, so it doesn't really make sense to have that deviation downhole survey at those depths because the drill hole doesn't go through that depth. So these are the kind of errors you may find. Okay. Then I can close this. All right. So that's for downhole survey. Segments are a little bit different. So like I mentioned, segments are really just used for channels. So what happens is there's two different things. Okay, I'm just gonna go back into here and I'll show you a channel. Okay, so if I choose channel in here, okay. So you see that in channel, there's no coordinate tabs. There's only segment. And if you import them manually, you have to put the azimuth, the dip, the start, the length of each segment, and the starting coordinate for each segment. That's how you do it manually in here. However, when you import data, it's also possible to import this way with an azimuth, dip, the length, and so on of your each segment. But it's also impossible. It's also possible to import using the starting and the end point. So using the coordinate of the starting point and the coordinate of the ending point to do your segment. Okay, like I probably mentioned before, segments don't have to be contiguous, so they can be like apart. So the end of one segment is not necessarily the beginning of the other one. It's possible to have some gaps. So that's how you would do it. Okay, so if you know the azimuth dip starting and like what is the beginning, the end of each segment and what are the length, you can do it in here. But if you only have coordinates for the starting and the ending point, then you will have to import them using segments in here. Okay. So in segments, so you recognize this window. It's very similar to before. Okay, I'll go in segment. So this is the file I want to import. I'll just show you quickly this file. Okay, so just to show you, so I have a project survey and I have the starting point and ending point of each of my segment. Okay, so I don't have an azimuth, dip, and the length of each of them. So what you want to do in here, there's different options. Okay, so it says here, automatic calculation. Okay, so if you press none, it will just import directly without validation, really. It will be very similar to an Excel import that we will see later. But you can also calculate the coordinates. Well, in this case, I cannot calculate the coordinates. They are already in my file. So in this case, this is not very valid. What I want to do is calculate the azimuth, the dip, and length that corresponds to those coordinates that I do have. So it will take the different coordinates and just calculate the azimuth, dip, and length for me. Okay? And then you have this option like, what do you do with existing data? Do you want to erase them and then write new data, or do you want to add the existing segments to them? Okay. So basically, if in my Excel file I would have had azimuth, dip, length, I would have calculated the coordinates. But because in this case I have the coordinates, I will calculate the azimuth, dip, and length. Okay, so I'll do a load on this. So again, you have this kind of thing. I can use one of my importation profiles. So when I use an importation profile, see everything gets filled automatically. So it saves a lot of time. And then I'm good to go. I just press load again to have the import button, and then I can click import. It will import all of my segments. Okay. I'm not going to do it because these segments already exist in my database. And it doesn't really make sense to do this. But it's just to show you how it works and what are the possibilities in here. So again, if you import manually, you can only import using azimuth, dip, and length. But if you import with this segment button here, you can also import using coordinates directly. So that's segments. It's also possible to import or export from other Jetsic log databases. So that's a Jetsic log DB in here. So what you need to do is you have to select a distant DB. So the distant DB is the other database that you want to import or export to. And the local DB is the one that you're connected into presently. So in this case, in my case, it's the demo mine 800 underscore 2014. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and select another database. It doesn't have to be in the same format. So one of your database can be in SQL and the other one can be in Access. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter. Okay, so you can use it either way. So if I'm doing export from local DB to distant DB, basically what I'm going to be doing is I'm taking data from my local database, so demo mine 800, and I'm going to copy them into the demo Jetsic log database that I selected. Okay. You'll notice here that you have your different projects in here and survey. It is possible to select several of them at the same time. So for example, if I want to select these drill hole, but I have a few drill holes in my other project that I also want to send to the other database, I can go and select whatever I need from each project. Okay, but you'll have to do them separately, each project independently, but they're all going to be in the same list in here. Okay, and then you choose which tables are you going to be exporting in this case. Okay, so you can export everything. So if you want to export everything, you click on that little thing and everything is going to be selected. Or you can just go, I just need this or this table. Let's say I just want my assay. So you just select the tables that you need. And then you press next. So it's possible that between your two databases, the project's name are not exactly the same. So this is why you need to do an association for a project. In this case, they're exactly the same names, but sometimes you need to do some associations in here. And what do you do with existing data? Do you want to add the missing and valid records? Do you want to erase the existing data before re-importing? Or if it already exists, you do not import anything. Okay, so basically that's the options that you have in here. And then you can export your data into your other database. Okay, so it's very simple. If you select import instead, you see it just connected to this database. So there's only one project in this database. And then I can just go and grab what I need to import in my local database. That is this one, but it's exactly the same idea. Okay, so again, you have association and then you can just import. Very intuitive. It's fairly simple. They're going to spend more time on this, but this is how it works. All right, cancel on this. Okay, I'm going to come back to the file Excel CSV a little bit later. I'll start with the GEMS database. A lot of users are using GEMS, and so that's why we decided to have an export to GEMS. In the future, there might be exports to other software. We're thinking about this, but for the moment, there's only GEMS database. GEMS doesn't work exactly the same way, so the database, the structure of the database is a little bit different, so we decided to do an export so that it's compatible. To be noted, there's a few things during the conversion that will change. Okay, so for example, in Jetsic, when you look at the coordinate system, we use the true north in everything in Jetsic. Okay? And for us, a vertical line corresponds to the true north. When you go to GEMS, for example, and several other software, actually the true north is not vertical. It's the projection north that is the vertical line. Okay, so we need to make a correction, and that's the azimuth factor that you find also in Jetsic log in the coordinate system. Okay, so when you export to GEMS, it will change this. Will change this the azimuth so that your north corresponds to the north and everything. Okay. Also, if you have wedges in your drill hole. GEMS doesn't like to have drill holes that start at 250. For example, every drill hole needs to start at 0. So we will correct this so that your drill hole will start at 0 and will change the depth of all your things. Okay, so just to let you know that there's a few things like this that needs to be converted. Okay. So the way it works, it's fairly easy. So you use here. I'm just going to take. Oops. Okay, I'm going to take my GEMS database. So again, I've created an exportation profile so that it's easier. And then you have a workspace to choose. You need to choose which drill hole you want to export to GEMS. Okay, so I can just take a few. Okay. And in here, in the first window, in here, you have to specify what to do with your allowed codes. So all the smaller than, bigger than traces. By default, it will try to guess what it is, okay, by the symbol. So it will try to guess what it is. But you may have to change a few of them manually. So just double check to make sure. Okay, so you just have to say, okay, TR is below detection limit and so on. Okay, because GEMS codify this differently. Okay. Then you have to make all the associations, all the table, what it corresponds in GEMS and so on. Okay, so for example, if I go to coordinate information, in GEMS it's called the header. And these are the different columns for this header table. Okay, so location is basically the UTM zone 18 in JetSig log in this case. The length corresponds to the length, dip to dip, azimuth to azimuth, description to description, or comments, right? So you just have to make the different association, and this is true for each table. Okay, so you have to do this for all of the tables. Okay. And this is why, again, having an exportation profile can save you a lot of time, because it does take a little bit of time to just set this up. Okay, depending on your GEMS database, it could be a little bit worse than this. If you have, for example, here there's a table called inter high grade, and I decided this was corresponding to my assay averages in JetSig log. So when you select this a table that is assay average, it will also prompt you for zones. And so in this table, there's a zone name called in this table. So which zone are you going to export? Okay, so these are all the zones that are set up in the dictionaries from JetSig log, but it will not export the definition of your zone. It will just export the name of your zone. Okay, so just keep that in mind. And then when you're ready to go, you just press export, and then it will just export all your data into your GEMS database. Okay, so it's just, again, a question of associations and you know, make sure that everything goes to the right place. All right, file Excel CSV. This is where, if you have historical data, you have other things, this is how you will deal with them. So everything that you have in your database can be exported. If you go to export, you can choose where to export your data. So I can just do a test or a demo here. Okay. Oh, and then when you go in here, you can, okay, so this is demo, but you can also choose if it's a XLSX, XLS, or a CSV file, okay, because I can export to these formats. If we choose Excel, that's fine. Okay. All right. Okay, so I will choose whatever I need to export into Excel. Here you'll find there's a little button called Replace Line Returns by Spaces. The reason is it can go into different cells in Excel if you don't do this. Okay, so let's say that you have a description of a vein, and then you have different paragraphs, and then you press a few enters to have some line returns. You may want to replace those line returns by spaces. Okay, so that's what it does. Okay, you don't have to, but sometimes it's useful. Okay, so you choose which DDH or which survey you want to export, and then you choose which table you want to export. So it can be just one, or it can be all of them again. So you just choose what you want to do, and then you press export. Okay, in this case, it's because I have a personalized table that has a name too long, so it doesn't let me do it. But you see the idea. Okay, so you just export this. All right, then if you want to import data, it's a little bit more complex. So what you would need to do is an importation template. So you will go in here, importation template. It would ask you which format. So is it Excel, XLSX, in CSV? If you do choose CSV, it will create several files. So one will be the name that you just give it, underscore header, and then you will have the name underscore in each of the table that you have in your database, in your JITSIC database. Okay, so it will export several files, different files. If you choose to do it in Excel, it will create only one file, but with different worksheets. So you will have the header and all of your table that exists in JITSIC log in all the different worksheets. Okay, so personally, I prefer the Excel rather than CSV, but it's up to you. Okay. Okay. So once you created your template, I didn't create it because I already have one in here. So this is how it would look like. So you would have different tabs and different worksheets. The first one will be the index. To be able to use those templates, there's a few rules that you need to follow. One, the header is really important. The index in here is really important. So all of your data that you want to incorporate in the other tables, those project and DDH name or whatever, it doesn't have to be a DDH, but your survey name will need to be there, and the type needs to be there also. So the type could be outcrop, it could be DDH, channel, or drop points. Okay, so you would put all your project, all your survey, and all your types in here. Okay, the plan name is not necessary, but the other ones are. Okay. The other rule that is very important is in this template, you'll find that when you switch different tabs, you have a header in here, so a title line. This line cannot be changed. Okay, so don't change the letter, don't change the order. If you want things to go smoothly and be able to import everything, just keep it exactly in this format. Okay, so just keep it like this. Don't add a column, don't delete a column, just keep it exactly like this. Okay, so what you will do then is you will take this template and you can just copy and paste your data from wherever it comes from. Okay, so if it's a historical data, just copy and paste your data in the right columns, and then you're good to go. Okay, so again, like I told you earlier, if you had a file with your downhole surveys that are all your holes are in there, instead of using the other import button, you would use this one, and then you would just copy all your tests in here in the downhole survey tab. Okay, so there's a lot of tabs in here. All your personalized tables are also going to be found in here. So basically everything from JITSIC is in here. Okay, so if you're starting a new project and then and you have historical data to import into your database, well, the first thing to do is to set up your database correctly, have your tables, if you have personalized tables to create, your columns to be created before doing this template. Okay? And then you can just copy and paste your data and then re-import afterwards. Okay? Just a few notes in here. So, for example, the assay is split into different tables. So you have the assay, you have assay QQC, lab QQC, and your assay averages. Okay, I know in geotic log it looks like it's in one table. Okay, but in reality, in the background, it's going to be treated like 4 different things. Okay, so if we just look quickly at the assay, so you have the assay in here, you have JQC, lab JQC, and then average composite. Okay, so these are going to be treated differently. Okay. All right, so you copy and paste all your data in here. Don't forget to put your project, a survey name, and don't forget to fill out the index with all of your surveys. Okay, if you were in CSV, it would be exactly the same thing, but except you would get a CSV file for each of these tabs. Okay, so it's the same idea. Okay, so once you're good to go and you have filled out your tables and your index, you can go ahead and import. So if I go to import, you'll recognize this window again. So you can just go ahead, pick up your template. Template 2. Okay, there's nothing in there because I didn't copy data, but and then you will have to do some association again. Okay, so by taking this, it will recognize your drill hole. In this case, there's none entered in here, but if I was going to do load, you will see the list of drill holes in here. It would see it from the index. Okay, and each table you have to do the association. So attribute goes with attribute, coordinate. Normally, everything is filled automatically, or almost. Okay. One that is not is the coordinate one, so make sure that you don't forget to select this one. Okay. And then you do this association, and then you have to say what you're doing with those existing data that are already in your database. Okay, so do you just add the ones that are not there? Do you erase the existing one, or do you just do not do anything? Okay, so that's what you need to do. And then you press import. Okay, so it's not too difficult. The difficult part is to copy and paste your data into your template that you haven't modified the title. Okay. And then when you import, it's possible that it will generate some errors. Just be careful when you import using this. Not everything is validated. So for example, all my lithology codes, all my things that I would do normally in the description manually when I describe the core, they might not be all validated. So for example, it's possible that I will import a lithology that is beyond the depth of the drill hole. There's no validation for this when you import in Excel. Okay? I did talk about this before. If you import with Excel or CSV, a good thing to do afterwards is you go into utilities and you do a verification of your description data, and it will do all those validations. For example, like I mentioned, if I have a lithology beyond the depth of the drill hole, it will see it and you could go and fix it afterwards. Okay. But during the process in here, you do have some validations, but not as extensive as if you were logging manually. It's also possible that you will get some errors. So I have an error example in here. Okay. So for each of the tables that I do have errors, you will get your exact same file, only with the lines that were not imported because there were some problems. And then you will have a red column at the end with the errors. Okay, so here I have 2 error columns because I can fix all my problems in this file and re-import it. Even though the timeline has new fields called errors, it will treat it correctly, and so you can reuse the same file directly instead of having to go back to the original file and change it. Okay, so you can change it directly in here and then re-import this. So it could be different problems. Okay, but what's important to notice here, for example, in here, I have data not conform, and I have brackets m. Okay, that means my problem is in the column m. So I'll go in the m, and probably in this case is the date format is not correct. Okay, so I will have to go and change my date format. Okay, but it could be all kind of things. Okay, this interval is not valid, for example. And why is this? Well, if you look at it, the to is after the from, is before the from, so it doesn't really make sense. It's not logical, so it didn't import this one. For example, the sample number already exists, so it cannot import those new samples. Data not conform in column C in this case. Well, there's no from and to, so that doesn't work. Codes that are not allowed, so make sure they have all your allowed codes before, and so on. Okay, so it could be different reasons, but at least with the letter into the bracket, you have directly an idea of where the problem comes from. Okay, data not conform again. Could be different things. Okay, so just to let you know. And then, like I said, you can modify directly into this file. And then when you go in here and press import, you can go and they get that error file, that modified error file to import directly. Okay. So yeah, so that's pretty much it. Just be careful, like I said, with the validation. Make sure that you do another validation afterwards if you import large amount of data using Excel or CSV. But this would work well. One more thing is if you go to import, if you've done an export of one table, it's also impossible to just import that specific table instead of just a template. Okay, so the import here is not just for template. If you do an export, modify a few things or add a few data, and then you press import, you can go in file and find this file, and it will import just this file and not the whole database. Right? So that's possible to do as well, and very useful actually. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it for today. That covers pretty much all the import exports, the different ways of doing this, and little tricks to not forget. So be careful with the importation template. A lot of people are making the errors of adding a column, switching the columns around, and then it doesn't work. So just be careful with that. Otherwise, yeah, I'll be here if you have any questions. There's no problem. I'll answer all of them. And then, yeah, I'm available for whatever questions you may have. And thanks for attending.